Mbabane stands at the center of progress, contributing an estimated 3.8 billion to the country's economy. Beaming with development and opportunity, remains the administrative and economic heartbeat of the Kingdom of Eswatini. Today we sit down with a woman leading that charge since taking office. Her vision has helped to shape the direction of the city. A respected leader across both public and corporate places, she is steering Mbabane into a new era. Renowned local government leader and CEO of the Mbabane City Council, Gciniwe Fakudze, is our guest today. My name is Gciniwe Fakudze, and this is the next step where we have real conversations with leaders shaping our society. Good day and welcome to the show, Ms. Fakudze.
Hi, Gugu. Thank you so much for having me, and it's really a pleasure to sit with young people who are visionary and trying to actually communicate what we're trying to do in these offices that we're privileged to be in.
Having this conversation with you in the wake of that very prestigious win in Taiwan, the 2026 Smart City Award, before we even get any further with our conversation, huge congratulations to you on that award.
Thank you.
For the past few months, you have been quite intentional about transforming the city into a smart city. What exactly does a smart city look like? Let us begin our conversation there.
No, thank you very much, and really we appreciate the award itself, because I think one of the things we do generally in life, we don't stop and take stock of even how far you've come. Even one step in the right direction is worthy of an applause. So we're very grateful to the Taiwanese government for that award. But more closer to home, so what does a smart city speak to? And really when I talk about a smart city, and we generally talk about it, we're trying to simplify it. It's not about the utopia of cars flying in the air.
As we think
and that's
of
what people think. When you say smart city, people think robots will be driving on the streets. Really when we talk about a smart city, we're just talking about a city where Eswatini, enabled by the digital innovations that are now here in society and in the world, can help us to deliver services smarter. So what am I talking about? Simple things like, I think when we grew up, policing was a man standing on the street and looking at the street and pacing up and down, and then would say, no more police are visible.
Yeah.
Because we knew that policing should be literally visible on the street. So when you talk about a smart city, you then bring about the innovations of cameras, which help and enhance in terms of being alive and monitoring 24 hours in your spaces. So police don't have to be patrolling the streets for you to feel safe. So there is technology coming in to augment what you're doing and sort of simplify it and make it easier for police to focus on other areas where you need a literal police officer. So if you can put cameras in your city, one, you increase the safety of your citizens, and suddenly a 24-hour city can then be a reality, because if people feel they're safe, they can walk to buy at night. But if people feel they must rush home, then your smart city will not, and your 24-hour city cannot be a reality. So it's a chain of things, but in essence, simplify what innovations and digital technologies can we use as local authorities and government to make Eswatini access and get services easier and faster. It talks about billing as well. So long ago, even water, not for water services, the man would come and read the meter on a motorbike, you know. When you've locked your gates, there'll be problems. The innovations that have come about are saying you don't have to really go to my homestead. There's smart metering. So the same is true even in local government. We're just trying to say what technologies can be used to make impilo Eswatini even easier and faster and better.
That's a very good one. The simplest way.
And it is simple. But when you think about your own life, just think around this as well. I mean, when you talk about your own life, between waking up and getting here, what are the digital technologies that have helped you, even in doing what you do? So an alarm. Long ago, we put an alarm clock, it go and you hit it. Now it's on your phone.
It's on my phone.
Your phone has your diary. Your phone has your calendar. You don't need an assistant. Your phone reminds you. It tells you the weather. So when human beings in our individual spaces, we can do that. Surely there's digital innovations that can help you at a bigger scale. So that's really what we're talking about. Let's bring in technology and make sure that we use it. And then start bringing in young people who are digital and tech savvy, because they know the solutions before we even know them. So bring them in running a city. It really helps.
When one analyzes your leadership journey, it seems success was always a no-brainer for you, isn't it? You've come from a family rooted in education, your dad as a teacher and your mom in food science. With that kind of solid background, does young Gciniwe ever for any moment think she'll be a leader in local government?
No, actually. Honestly, no. So young Gciniwe wanted to be a doctor. You know, and in my family, my mom was passionate about that. The two careers that I wanted was to either be a lawyer or be a doctor. So when my older brother Ziga became a lawyer first, I thought, oh, okay, I'm not doing that. So then medicine became the next option. So I actually applied and I got accepted at Medunza. And the short version of the long story, I remember that I don't like blood and I'm a little chicken. So that couldn't work. And then planning came in because I love people, I love being with people and working in terms of design and science. So that's how I landed in the profession I did. But did I ever think that I would be in leadership in local government? No. I just thought I'd be working with people, be where people are, because I quickly learned that I love being in spaces where there are people. And in terms of the role modeling I saw in my family, I had a very strong mother. Those that know my mom, my mom was a Sunduza. And, you know, that woman was a hustler. She was very strong. Nothing was impossible for my mom, and you could literally see it. So I don't think I can ever imagine a time where I felt my mom was weak in any situation. So it never landed in my head that there's anything called weakness in any situation. So even the achievements from their backgrounds, my father was a teacher. And he taught a lot of people from Bobo coming all the way to Eswatini. But really, the role modeling around that was very good and positive. And I really knew that whatever I would choose, I would give it my all and be a success at it.
Does Mom accept that you want to go do town planning?
Well, she didn't accept that I ended up not doing medicine. It took a bit of convincing. You know, that, okay, Mom, I'm not a doctor at heart. And no, I don't do well with pain. So she accepted it, but I know for a fact that they knew that whatever I touch, it would have been a success. I mean, I was always a go-getter. Even my whole story of how I ended up at Wits University in South Africa. I graduated at St. Michael's, boarded a Kumbu with my cousin, and we went to South Africa and told them that this is where we want to study. I worked throughout varsity. So my parents knew that that one is a hustler. And I don't think when they would think about their children, they would think about me as the one that needed hand-holding. They just knew that that one will figure it out. So I grew in a space where the trust was there for my family, and my parents were just, they really nurtured the strength they saw, and they never at any point did I feel like they were worried that it wouldn't come together where I'm concerned. So I went to Joburg. I was a little girl, stayed in a flat. My father was comfortable. They would come and check me out. They knew that
should do it.
Yeah, she'll be fine. She'll be fine now. Somehow she was fine.
You started your professional journey in municipal management in 2003 and became a CEO at a very young age. Let's be honest. Black leadership is always associated with gender politics, patriarchy, classism, and I can imagine how amplified that was 23 years ago when you came into office. Let's just take it back to that very moment where a very young Gciniwe steps into uncharted territory.
It was something. It was something, and I suppose the context of it was Estegi as well. Please don't forget that. A very rural, quiet, small town where everybody knows everybody. And then you come in and they know you as this person on TV, because I was working for Channel Swazi. And somehow the Channel Swazi got amplified more than the fact that I had gone to varsity. So when you landed, they saw what they call a celebrity on TV. and there you are, trying to make them realize that I also went to varsity and I can do this job. So it took some doing. I was 23, very tiny body, and I was a woman. But I realized quickly that people generally will focus on the external until you quickly move them to what's in the brain. And the minute they realize that, people will just follow. And in not so long, I had integrated into the community. So the skill set of loving people and being able to just strike conversations and work my way into a community, it really helped because I believe as Stegi, I quickly became one of them as opposed to CDO. It became easy to then move with the community. When they thought she gets us, she's one of us. So there are strategies, of course, that I had to employ. You know, when you're young and you're a woman, don't get hung up on that. Quickly get hung up and focused on the strategies you must put in place. It can't just fall in place on its own. So you must sit and strategize. So I'm young and a woman. How do I win their trust? You could even see when they looked at me. In fact, one community meeting where they called the community to introduce their new CEO, there was Nkulumoya, they was taking him very well. He was one of the oldest men, and unfortunately he passed on while I was still in Stegi. And packed community meeting, and the mayor at that time, those were my counselors. So where did I park? So again, and then the community just went quiet. It was very tiny, 23 hours tiny. And I'm standing there and everybody is just staring at me and Patrick's in the shoulder and Nkulumoya at the back puts his hand up and he's even waving. And la community was about, but it was more of Nkulumoya. He has a way of speaking the truth. So I'm Nkulumoya, but don't fool her. I told her until Nkulumoya, and Nkulumoya says, oh man. Nasibathela lokho mfombi lokuqaya kwesithanthana wenzile yini wena usomla wadini phasa khala ukulwaphasa khala. And the community just went into stitches. And I think for me, I didn't even get hung up on that. I was asking a genuine question.
Oh yeah.
Looking at your disposition, looking at your age, Manami, I'm not sure you can do this. So a lot of it had to do with convincing the community that you can do it. And it was an amazing start. I wouldn't wish it any other way.
Oh yeah.
I wouldn't. No. Good thing I started. There's things I learned there that I wouldn't have learned here.
Oh yeah. And as that is happening, Ms. Fakudze, were you in any way aware that you are pioneering a new narrative for female-led governance in the country? Were you always conscious of that?
No. I think when you're 23 and you're from varsity,
oh yeah.
I mean, everything about you at that point is, let me just get my job, a job in what I studied. So you remember that I graduated and I did not have a job. I worked at China Swazi for close to a year and a half after varsity. And the people I graduated with, and I graduated quite well. I was part of the top students in my class. Everyone of my classmates had got jobs in planning. They were working for the city of Tshwane, city of Joburg.
Oh, yeah.
And I was still struggling to get a job that is relevant to what I studied. And if you're a student out there, you really want to try what you studied because you love it. So I was happy and privileged to have a job in China Swazi, but I wanted a job that's relevant to that. So at that point, when I walked in, honestly, I wasn't even saying things like, oh, pioneering. I didn't even think I was. I was just grateful. Finally, I got a job that is relevant to what I studied, and I want to push and make a success of it. But that's the funny thing then about life, is that, you even yourself, you're a role model to someone you don't know even where you're sitting. Because someone wants what you have, and you don't know it. And you're looking ahead and saying, I want that. But someone says, that woman has achieved. So it then grew from there. I never put my hand up to be a pioneer. I just wanted a job in what I studied. And when an opportunity opened up in Stegi, I went to Stegi and I started working with Stegi. But as time progressed, naturally I then started realizing that, okay, there's suddenly a crowd. And that is what the public office does. It really brings a crowd you don't apply for. You apply for a job, but because it's a public sector job, you quickly realize that, okay, there's a constant audience. And then suddenly that consciousness started growing. And I started realizing that, okay, there's things now that I need to do intentionally because the position that I'm at and the journey that I've now been putting in has an audience. So it grew in. But as I started, myself, I was my own audience. I just wanted to keep a job and be good at it and prove that I can do it. And suddenly when you do good and things start working, you then realize that, okay, it's starting to be an example, and then you look around and become conscious of that.
All right. And thank you so much for that, Ms. Fakudze. Let's take a short break, which I'll be back after this.
Section 60 of the National Constitution has called upon institutions to afford the most ordinary of Leswati with the most basic and affordable health care. And for the past 20 years, the Look Commission has served as a beacon of hope for the most vulnerable of the population who cannot afford access to quality health care. Today we get into a conversation with a woman who has sacrificed 20 years of her life alongside her husband in ensuring that the most vulnerable and impoverished of Eswatini receive access to the most affordable and quality health care. My name is Mlandwa Sikumbuzo Gamavimbela, and welcome to The Next Step, where we seek to pay tribute to some of the most trailblazing prolific people that the country has to offer.
This is still The Next Step, and we're seated here with the CEO of the Mbabane Municipal Council. Her name is Gciniwe Fakudze. Ms. Fakudze, you also work in corporate senior roles, including customer experience leadership, before returning to municipal government. What lessons from that corporate environment have influenced how you lead public institutions?
No, a great influence. In fact, I'm very grateful for that in my journey, because the few lessons I've learned there, not few, many, that I came back with, of course, is that in the private sector, just like the public sector, we're all selling something. You know, where I was at MTN and Eswatini Mobile, we were selling airtime and connectivity to Eswatini. In the public sector, we're selling services to Eswatini, efficient towns, clean cities, working services, You can count the list. But the difference between the two is that they're more intentional around the customer centricity and customer service. They approach it as a service because you pay, so they must be efficient, and the dynamic of competition pushes them to become efficient and to excel at it. Public sector, we've always been an institution that just does a service, because no one directly pays anything, no one does. If people pay, they pay their rates and taxes. So the same principles should occur and apply in both private and public. Customers who we serve in the public sector deserve services as well. So the efficiencies you see in the private sector, you must see them in local government. So one of the critical things I came with, and the team that I work with will constantly be talking about it, is really how do we change around our local authority from being a legislative body where people apply for permits to be an enabler. There's a difference between the two. Because when you're an enabler, you then suddenly start focusing on what we call customer journeys. How long does a person take to apply for something? But why do they take that long? What efficiencies can we bring into that? So for example, at MTN, we will tell you that how long does it take to register a customer? We can tell you. There's a KPI that says, if I buy a SIM card, it must take me less than 3 minutes to KYC. If it's 5 minutes, it's too long. But in the public sector, we have that, but we don't really focus too much on that because the journeys don't matter to us. So we don't look at the journey, we look at a service. So that's what we're working on as Mbabane. And it's one of the projects we're very keen on, the efficiencies on service delivery, focusing more on the customer. When I want to apply for Ngotsi, how long does it take for me to get Ngotsi in Mbabane? If it takes me 3 days, why does it take 3 days? Why shouldn't it take 2 hours or 3 hours? So what are the efficiencies and the things you must remove from the journeys to make it efficient? How long does it take for me to get a rates clearance? Why should I come to your offices when I want to get a rates clearance? So these are the questions that we must start asking ourselves, because in the private sector, they focus on the journey because they sell an experience as opposed to a service. So the same thing becomes true with us. We must sell an experience. You must look forward to coming to the municipal council to apply for a building permit. In fact, you mustn't even come. Why must you come?
Why shouldn't you come?
So I'm sitting at my house and I need to be able to apply for a building permit and send it to the local authority. Then we will tell you if we need to see you and have an appointment with you for you to explain. Then we must tell you, come on this day. If you come, there's an appointment. It's efficient. We send you information we need to send. So these are the efficiencies we're trying to bring that you'll find in the private sector entity that we need to see even in government.
Speaking of efficiencies, digital innovations like smart billing and real-time municipal services can be disruptive. How do you approach introducing technology in ways that remain inclusive and citizen-driven?
And it's not just an agenda that sits with public sector, of course. I think even if you talk to a private sector entity, you've got to move with your customers and the citizens for any service to be said to be efficient and to be helpful. So if you come with smart billing, and you must want that consumer use that service and platform don't understand what it is, then you are lost. So when you talk about digitization, you talk about innovation, we also talk about going with your audience. So if a Maswati don't know how to use a smartphone, they carry it, but all they do is SMS and call, then there's a problem. Because that customer can then not suddenly know how to do smart billing and smart paying on your phone. So then education becomes a part of it. So the nice thing about the local authority is that there's a very strong pillar of citizen training, citizen engagement, community engagement. That's why we have councillors. So today we are strong at community level, and some of it comes with a lot of educating, basic education. It's in the smart city and banking that thing so that people don't get lost and think no, it's not. As well. Because if go angathola imbasha takhe ecingweni athenge igesi ecingweni kwende konke la cingweni lakhe uhulumende lo smart kwakhona lokho lo sikuka akangasuki phela ahambe ayo. Same thing must be happening at. So when you talk about smart billing, we can talk about it and leave out the Maswati that are supposed to be using the platform. So education becomes very important. So questions of digital literacy, when the Ministry of ICT and government talks about that, we get excited because digital literacy says, teach your people, let them appreciate what it is that you're trying to do so you can deliver services better. So the same agenda is true even within the company. So one of the things that we've done, Laga Municipality, is we have a very strong change management program. We've got change managers and we'll call them change champions, because we've got to understand what we're trying to be internally before we start rolling it out. So when you talk to any MCM employee, they'll tell you that the digital conversation, the internal smart city, is also one of the conversations we're having inside as a police.
Ensuring city safety and efficient infrastructure has been part of your agenda since day one. What innovations or policy shifts do you believe will most improve safety, urban mobility, and environmental sustainability in Mbabane?
So generally, when you talk about a town, I always say to people, talk about it even at family level. So let's go to your family or my family. The minute the children in the house feel safe, the minute the children in the house feel they can do and be anything, they can literally burst and think out of the box. So the same is true when you talk about urban safety. It's not just about safety full stop. It's about the things that a safe citizen can do in their town. I can wake up at 4 a.m. and jog. I won't want to get a jogging club. So suddenly I'm an independent young woman and I'm an independent woman. I stay alone, I can get in at night, 10 o'clock. I can then enjoy the nightlife in the van. I can leave my car and take an Uber. I feel safe. So there's something about safety that opens up a city. Because when people feel unsafe, they lock their doors, they rush home at 5, your city dies. So some of the things that we're trying to do, and if a businessman in the Mbabane and vicinity speaks to you, they say we want to operate till night, we want to operate 24 hours, do night markets. But if you feel unsafe, no matter what I do, you will not come out. So suddenly when you talk about mobility in a city, I should be able to come to the city at night and leave my car. If I can travel to Joburg, I can leave my car here and be able to move in that whole city with no problems, no hiccups. I call an Uber, it picks me up. I want a Kumbi, it's there. I want a bus, it's there. I want a how train, it's there. Mobility has a way of waking up a city and allowing business people and the people that have got ideas to make the town come alive. So that's why as a city we started with that. So people will ask you, why cameras first? Because you've got to move away from the notion that the town sleeps at 5. Smart cities are safe cities because the citizens can literally do anything. I can walk my dog at midnight. I can cycle even at night. It's lit, I'm safe. The streets are clean, there's no potholes. I jump on my bike When I come back at 9 o'clock, I cycle at 10, I'm done. That's a city that allows its citizens to breathe. So that's why we hung up on that, and that's why it's so critical that we push it. That's why we have an MOU with the police, because we understand that it's not just police for safety, it's police for living. They enable you to live. That's why when I say to people, even if I can ask you the question, why do you think there's brakes on your car? It's not so that you move slow, right? It's so that you can move faster, because you trust there's something back you when you want to stop. So we are the brakes. We're not there to slow people down. But the minute you open up safety and people can breathe in their city, trust me, they'll move faster. Businesses will operate late. This economy will thrive, because we've just unbought one small thing and made it very easy to live, breathe, and play and work in the life.
As a woman who has been in senior leadership roles across public and private sectors, what gender-specific barriers do you encounter early in your career, and how did you overcome them?
Gender-specific? Oh, what a gender-specific one? Well, I suppose a gender-specific one, what I'm thinking of is really maybe starting a family or something like that. Are those the ones? Okay, sorry, I'm being sarcastic. But in all truth, maybe when we talk about my own leadership, I don't think that I'm a woman features much. I think the only barrier is that I need more time to get ready because I need to look gorgeous. But honestly and truthfully, if I'm talking to a young woman out there, it's the barriers you create in your mind that become your problem. Like literally, I'm trying to find one, I can't find it. Because I've really never had a problem because I'm a woman. I don't think so. I went to school, I studied and qualified. I see a job, I apply. I get in there, I work. But I don't think the whole woman dynamic comes to play. I then model my own life so that it makes it easy for me to deliver. I can imagine for a woman that's a wife and has children, the dynamics are different. But I've always believed that we all have our own luggage and packages that we're carrying along the way. You just make it work. I don't see barriers. I don't think that I'm a woman is not the problem. In fact, I think it's a good thing. I look gorgeous as a woman. And I think I'm a very powerful and a strong personality because I'm a woman. Not, I don't know. But Sissy, I don't see barriers. And I'm talking to a young woman out there, please don't start counting barriers because you will see them even if they're not there. So if you wake up and think, because I'm a woman, okay, very talented.
And that's a very powerful
one. Stop finding problems that are not there. Let it come and then deal with it. But the minute you look at it from a screen that says, because I'm a woman, you will find problems. So just lead people. And when people challenge you, they're challenging you, the leader. When situations come your way, it's because you're a leader. Yes, as a woman, I must bring my A game more than a guy. Yes. As a woman, I think I get charged differently. Yes. So I bring in different tactics and tools to deal with it. I really don't focus on the hiccups that being a woman brings to the table. I focus on the strengths it brings.
Yeah. The appointment as CEO of Mbabane followed a lengthy recruitment process and a legal challenge. How did that intensity of scrutiny and conflict influence your perspective on leadership, accountability, and collaboration?
I think generally in life, if you don't face huge challenges or the ones that come to you are easy, I think you're moving on it very slowly. The fast lane is the Sigunje. It's fast lane. If you want to play in the fast lane, you must have enough. So if your challenges are small, it's okay. You don't want huge ones, it's okay. Stay in the slow lane. But Laga CEO lane, Laga politics lane, Laga leadership lane, this is what you face. And a lot of things that you then need to work on as a person is one, your own mental health, emotional intelligence, build resilience, get people around you that will support you. So the beautiful thing is that this challenge you're speaking about, in Canada, saying about 20 years in public sector.
Oh yeah.
Local government is not for CC.
Oh yeah.
Politics is not for CC. Leadership is not. And anything you want to do, starting a business, getting that degree, it's not for CC. It's tough enough. Just tough enough as a person. But the bigger the challenge is, for me, it's so it's not small feat. So if you want to look at it as a challenge, that's your problem. For me, I looked at it as saying, well, it's a big weekend and it's supposed to be that hard. There's supposed to be very huge challenges. So you don't cower down. You just build up resilience and you're strong. And I thank God that I was coming from Matapa. It was equally as amazing and dynamic. For those that remember that journey, it was always like that. And that is the space that I chose to work in. Public sector politics. It comes with that. The greatest gift you can have as a person is strength and knowledge that it's not personal, it's about the journey you are in. And if you don't find what it's supposed to teach you and focus on the problem itself, then you are missing lessons. So for me, one of the critical lessons I had to learn during that period is to be clear on what you want. At some point, I thought, maybe this is not where I should be going. And I thought, no. And then because I chose to go there, not because it was an opportunity that was available, because I was intentional and I wanted to do it, then I charged on. Because it would have been different. I would have thought, okay, thank you, and stayed where I was. They were happy to keep me, they were happy to have me at MTN, but because I was intentional. So as you move in your journey, I think for me the greatest lesson was be sure where you want to go. Because some doors won't open. You can't then turn back. Then it means you didn't want to go through the door strong enough. So if you want to go through the door, you keep knocking until they open it. And no one will tell you, no, Cassis, it's too big. Until you want to go through. You keep knocking until the door opens. But if someone told you to go there, then you turn back and walk away. So that challenge for me was painful and hard, but
Ms. Fakudze, government requires both strategic visions and operational discipline. How do you maintain focus on long-term city development while also managing the immediate needs of residents and municipal staff?
The wonderful thing about local government, I think worldwide, but even more closer to Eswatini, is that our legislation, even if I wasn't a long-term strategic thinker, it forces me to be one. And I'm grateful that it's legislated for, so even if you want to focus on the operational, it forces you to keep looking up and think ahead. So when you talk about the city, we have what we call an integrated development plan. It's normally a 5-year plan. But Mbabane has a plan for 2030, 2040. We need to be very strategic and long-term thinking in our day-to-day operations as well. So we're happy that we have that strategy informed by the citizens and driven really at the core by the political arm, the mayor, even the executive. So in some of the projects that we do, a lot of agility comes into play because we build on foundations and we may start it in 2025, but we know that in 2040 we need to be sitting in a specific space. So it really requires that we have strong community linkages, work with the community, because the community could, in many instances, and it's understandable, they want services now. You can't go to a community meeting and say in 2040 they'll stone you. So you've got to be able to balance the two and constantly move with them, building trust. And it's really very critical in the public sector. Trust is everything. That is why when you watch even in other countries, in South Africa right now, they're saying that trust is lost in it. Trust is currency in the public sector. Trust is serious currency. You can win with trust alone in local government. So that's some of the things that we're building and rebuilding trust. Because when the noise started in Mbabane, a lot of people lost trust. But in the past 1.5 years, we've been really pushing to regain trust that Mbabane is functional, we are working, we are a team, we're focusing on operational, but the vision is over there. So even the smart city vision we're talking about, it's a really huge vision. It's incremental. When you go to smart cities like your Taiwans, we were recently there with the Minister for ICT, I'm telling you, you get blown away. And if you don't have a long-term strategic thinker mentality, you get overwhelmed because you can easily feel like, but if you know that come 2020, 2030, come 2040, come 2050, this is where we want to be with our citizens on our side, then it becomes easier to be operational, but still focus on the big picture.
I get that one, but many businesses seem to be leaving the capital for areas like Eswatini. Aren't you worried about the economic viability of the city and its edge as the capital city?
Worry is nothing that we have as a city. But if anything, firstly, because when you talk about Mbabane, we're the capital city, but we're also the big thinker. So when you look at the integrated development plans at national level, we'll have physical, spatial development plan at national level. that looks at Eswatini, not Mbabane, not Ngoyi, not Eswatini. The minute you continue to look into the country in that way, now go put difficulties together because Eswatini is small and our land space is small. So when you think about the development happening in Ngoyi, you must be able to link it all the way down to Fugagamanzi and understand that this is a corridor development belt. So when businesses move from Mbabane, they go to Zurini. It's not a bad thing entirely. It's really not a bad thing entirely because one, it opens up more space for Mbabane to even attract more investments in the city, which is something that we're working on, and you can see that the city is developing. Equally, Zurini will grow. But at the same time, do understand that we don't want to overly congest Zurini. It is a tourist town. So the minute you start bringing too many businesses, it's going to congest. Suddenly, you must think about it on a linear perspective. So Mbabane grows, Zurini grows to support because this remains the capital city. This remains the seat of government. And therefore, people in Zurini and going in, Matsapa and Mau can still come to Mbabane for services. So the complement of it and the growth of it is beautiful. But we need to make sure that Mbabane doesn't die. And it's not dying, not at all. It is actually going to grow more, and it's actually going to invest and attract other businesses to invest. And the ones that are here to even expand their footprint more and more in the city. So we're not worried at all. In fact, we're celebrating that instead of leaving the country, they're still staying within the kingdom's walls, and that's something to celebrate. And these cities are growing in a complementary fashion as opposed to a competitive one.
As you wrap up, Ms. Fakudze, there's so many people, young people, including myself, especially young women who grow up and who are still looking up to you to the stage. What can you say to them as you're stepping up the success ladder they're looking up to?
And honestly, to a young woman, I would say just dare to dream and don't be scared. You know, I think the world is overwhelming. It can be, and not everybody's going to be a cheerleader or seaman. You know, so get your own head straight, screwed on, know what you want to do, and go for it. In this country, honestly, you are lying if you are saying women cannot be and do anything. Look around and ask us and tell me that you think women in this country cannot achieve much. We can, we are. There's women in all spaces, private sector, public sector, banks, from left to so we have BPM, we have minister, we have parliament. You will find a footprint of women in business, in private sector doing great things. So you have no excuse not to be a success as a woman. Just toughen up and find women that will cheer you on. Find a mentor, look up, find your North Star, find who you want to be, and go get it. Will they talk? Yes. Will they gossip about you? Oh, absolutely they will and they should. Will they hate you? Some will. But you're doing something great when that happens. And when you start moving as a woman, believe you me, you move with others. So every time you think about yourself, even now, think about yourself. Think about the other women that are looking up to you and following you. One step you take, they take their step. So even as I take my steps, take your own steps and keep moving forward. It will be hard, you'll fail at it, and you're going to need support. But don't stop. Women can be anything in this country. And really, if you think we have achieved, watch the space. And you're still dreaming even at this age to be more than what we are now. Because the sky really is the limit.
And again, very well. And this is how we come to wrap up the next step. We're here with the CEO of the Mbabane City Council, Ms. Gciniwe Fakudze. Thank you so much, Mbelo, for taking your precious time and being with us.
Thank you very much for having me.